Today's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast is brought to you by our friends at Mediazilla and Wedding Post House.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn, and I am so excited about a brand new episode that we have today with the one and only Lindsey Conklin from Rêve Films. We're finishing up our series on secret to sales. And honestly, Nick and I were chatting about who we really wanted to bring onto the podcast to talk about sales and who we thought did it the best. And immediately, Lindsay came to mind with Rêve Films. If you don't know, they do ultra high profile weddings for very high net worth individuals. They're working with the top wedding planners in the world. They do celebrity weddings. They've done weddings at the White House. They do the best of the best, and I've watched them over the last 4 or 5 years really grow their business even more, and they've just put in a lot of work to networking, getting to know people, and playing a long game way more than a short game. They've played chess, not checkers, and so today Lindsay and I kind of dig into that. We talk through their mindset and what they're thinking when selling their funnel, like who they're putting into their funnel, and really just kind of dig a little bit deeper into their secret to sales. And so we're going to hop into that episode, but I want to remind you, if you're watching this the day that we drop this episode, our course, the How to Film Weddings course, is available for enrollment right now at howtofilmweddings.com/the-course. This is our entire system to build a six-figure wedding business and includes everything that we know about building our sales funnel, our sales process, how to shoot a wedding, how to edit a wedding, behind the scenes at weddings, questionnaire templates, email templates, everything, all the tools that you need as a wedding filmmaker to build a six-figure and beyond business, to work with couples that you absolutely love, and to create work that inspires you. So that is on sale. That's available right now. You can get started for $147. We've got a 21-day money-back guarantee on it. So really no pressure from us, but if you're in that state of your business where you're tired of doing mediocre weddings, you feel burned out, you might want to check out our course at howtofilmweddings.com/the-course. With that, and without any further ado, here's my episode with Lindsay from Rêve Films. All right, well, welcome Lindsey Conklin, one half of Rêve Films, to the How to Film Weddings podcast. Say hello. How are you doing, my friend?
What's up, John? I'm much less than one half, let's be honest. But
I was being nice.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just the one that, likes to talk to people,
Respect.
Yeah.
How's everything going in your world? What's new in the world of Rêve Films? Give us an update. For people that don't know you, go back, listen to the one of 5 or 6 episodes you've been on. But what's new in your world?
We're doing good. We have pretty much all of April off, so we're excited about that. Just trying to get caught up on things, and yeah, it's been good. We've been renovating our kitchen, so I'm doing a little woodworking project right now. I'm like full on like Ron Swanson in my garage, but without the mustache and masculinity, of course. But it's been fun. I'm excited. Still have all my fingers, so that's good. Haven't injured
as of
myself
recording
yet.
Yes, as of recording.
as of this recording, yeah. Things could change, but we have a living trust now, so although that's one scenario we hadn't really accounted for. What happens if I...
Yeah. You might amend it. I think you can do that. You can amend it, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Just get in there and put the, woodworking. No. For those people that don't know, Rêve Films doing... he loves when I say this, just doing luxury weddings all over the world. A luxury wedding filmmaker. I kid. But you are doing some incredible events with some ridiculously great wedding and event designers and florists and photographers and destinations. And we're finishing up this series, The Secret to Sales, and I thought, who better to get onto a call about sales than someone that I take notes from on how to do sales, because you're not selling when you're selling. You're so good at selling without selling. You're so good about thinking longer term. So I just wanted to kind of pick your brain today. We've been digging in the last few weeks about finding your ideal buyer and really speaking to them and putting your brand together to speak to them. But I wanted to kind of talk to you with your story on a little bit of how you've gone in the last 5 years, probably. It feels like it's really skyrocketed for Rêve Films, but just your approach, and we can start there with just like you and Cherish's approach to this game of wedding filmmaking and how you found it successful, because I think most people get sales really wrong. So just what's your approach been, your overall mindset as a brand when it comes to selling, getting people into your pipeline or your funnel, or getting to know new planners, or getting people to know that you exist, and just what's a little bit of your mindset when it comes to the brand of Rêve and how you're selling it to people out there?
Yeah, I mean, for us currently, pretty much all of our work is coming from planners. We do get a lot of business from photographers as well. But I think for us, like, our biggest approach is just, trying to be authentic, trying to be, good personality, a good person, that makes people feel comfortable. Nobody wants to be sold, like nobody wants to feel like, that you're at a used car dealership, or you're like sitting through a timeshare presentation, right? Weddings are very personal. And so, whether you're getting your weddings from planners or vendor referrals, or you're working directly with the couples, I think the biggest thing is nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants to, feel like this person's just trying to take advantage of me or get my money, or, and so the first things first is I always just try to make people feel comfortable with us, try to get to know us. Because it's a very personal business. The wedding industry is, wedding planners, they they want to work with people that they like, because weddings are stressful, and they, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that can, go wrong. And so wedding planners specifically, they're trying to eliminate variables. They want to work with people they like, good personalities. They're trying to eliminate any sort of, variables that could throw a wrench in the day. And the same thing with couples. They're on the blogs, they're reading these articles in the magazines, and they know that, they're going to be spending a lot of time with their photographer and their videographer. And so they want to, hire somebody that makes them feel comfortable, that makes them feel good, and that they get along with, so that's the biggest thing for us, is just not approaching it like a hard sell, and putting people at ease. It goes so far when it comes to this type of stuff. That's kind of step one for us, or one of our priorities, and then of course, serving people, and having a good product and serving people, going above and beyond, making sure that whoever it is that you're, quote unquote, selling to knows that you are going to do whatever it takes to, provide them with a good, solid product, and take care of them, and that really is the bottom line. They hear a lot of horror stories, I'm sure. Planners work with a lot of vendors that don't come through. And so when you can, do what you say you're going to do, that already gives you an advantage, and everything else kind of just follows. So that's our approach, when it comes to sales, really.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of it. I think a lot of us come into filming weddings because we like the art, and it's like we want to film weddings. So if we just film weddings really well, that's gonna do the trick, and we're gonna get rich and famous. And that's quickly, a lot of us realize that's not how it works. And I see a lot of people out there in the world, the purists that are, it's the art first. The art is it. The art, it's all about the art. And yes, to some brands that can be enough, especially if you're the top 1% of the top 1%. But for most of the rest of us, it's not that case. You started your brand way back, 15 plus years ago now. Obviously, you have learned a lot over time. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, getting going when it comes to sales and like the strategy that you're putting together, any secrets to sales that you would give a younger version of you that would help you get going to your destination even quicker?
Yeah. And I'm sure I've said this before, but I'll go on record saying it again, but networking sooner, like learning the importance of networking sooner. And I think I kind of knew it because even like day one, when Cherish and I started this business, like I called one of my really close family friends who owned a winery here in town, and they were starting to, do weddings at the wineries and stuff like that. So like he was the first person I called, and said, "Hey, we're doing weddings and I would love to do, weddings at your winery." And so I think I kind of knew that I needed, connections, and I just naturally went to, the first person I knew that could help us, get started. Um, but we kind of got stuck, working at this venue. We were on this vendor list at a venue for a long time, for years, and we just kind of got stuck there, and it was great. It was, we were just being spoon-fed weddings, but I didn't realize that there was this whole bigger world out there for networking. And I got caught up too in just like the, you know, ads online, and some of these big, wedding networks that where you can purchase ads, and we're like, oh yeah, we got to do all that stuff. And, so we can reach the people getting married, reach these couples. So yeah, so I kind of we got caught up in that for a few years, but we learned probably around like 2015, 2016, that there's a whole big networking world out there in the wedding industry. And when you get involved in that and connect with the right people, it can do wonders for your business. And, I think that is what I would give. That's the advice I would give myself. Get started sooner, get involved in that kind of, that world a little bit sooner, and it would have helped a lot for sure.
Yeah. And I think people are starting to kind of catch on, joining their local chapter of WIPA, or, going, when we first had you on, you're like, there's this secret event called Engage. And you're like, I probably shouldn't have told everybody because now there's 200 wedding filmmakers there each time I'm there. But I think that one thing that's been really, attractive, more than even just your physique, about you is your approach to playing the long game when it comes to your brand, your business. You're thinking on a level that's different than most, and it seems to come pretty natural. I know you did sales before, doing Rêve Films and learning that. I just think so many people are so short-sighted when it comes to we've been talking a lot about our funnels, and like whether we like it or not, we're always putting people in a funnel. We're making people aware of us. They're working their way down to potentially being a purchaser. We might be putting planners into that awareness funnel. We might be putting potential couples, bridesmaids, whatever. But your long game with your funnel seems to be really strategic and really chill and really comfortable, like you said. Why don't you talk a little bit about, because I know that what you all do is very strategic, but at the same time, it doesn't come across as strategic. What does it look like for you if you're thinking about the Rêve Films funnel, if you will? What are you doing all the time to play that long game? Because it seems like you're doing these big multi-million-dollar weddings, so like, I don't have to do much anymore. I can just sit back and someone's going to bring me a pina colada. Life's good up there. But I know that you're still putting in work. So what does it look like? What does your strategy look like when it comes to the funnel that you're creating with Rêve Films?
Yeah, what's funny is there's a lot of things that we don't do anymore that we used to do. And part of that is because we have built a certain amount of recognition. However, you have to remember that there's always people trying to, come up behind you and get that business and work with the same, planners that you're working with or the venues that you're working at. And so you just have to be consistent and keep showing up, keep reminding people that you exist, staying top of mind and staying, one of the people that comes to mind when your main referral sources think of, good videographers. So just again, continuing to show up, continuing to get involved in some of these wedding industry events. I do a lot of speaking at industry events, and it's definitely not for the money, the speaker fee, right? But it's just to again remind people that La Rêve is here, La Rêve is out there. We are active and we're doing things, and so like to me, that's one of the main reasons that I go to these events and speak, or even just attending these events or working the events, filming the events. It's just to remind people that we exist. Maybe we don't have to do it as much now as we used to when we were first trying to carve our niche in that, that world or whatever. But I can't stop. We can't stop, showing up. As soon as we stop showing up, somebody will take our place rather quickly. So that's kind of what we do. And again, just like, when how would you, nurture any relationship, whether it's a friendship or romantic relationship or a marriage or whatever, you would, anything that you would do to nurture that relationship, you should do with your business relationships. Hey, just checking in on you. How are things, and I think if you kind of approach it that way, it really can, help you solidify, these relationships that you're making. And that again is our sales funnel, is the relationships, So I think that's kind of what you have to keep doing is reminding people you exist, because it's easy to be out of sight, out of mind. We're all busy. We lead busy lives. The planners and the photographers that we work with, they're not sitting around thinking, oh, I wonder what, La Rêve is doing, or I wonder if they need some business, so we have to continue to show up and check in and remind people that we exist. And that's what you got to do, and any sales book that you read or information on sales will tell you, like, you have to have multiple contact points, right? To get that sale. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to relationships, keep checking in and keep following up just to remind people that you're still around, so
I
that's
love
kind of what
all
we
that.
do.
Yeah, I love all that. And the fact that it's like, I was thinking about it the other day. I posted on my personal hidden Instagram account a couple of photos of my kid, one of my kids. And about 30 minutes later, my brother sent me a text and was like, hey, how's it going? It's been a while. And I was like, interesting. My family needs me to remind them that I exist. This is a sad truth, but obviously they love me and they know I exist. But if you aren't putting yourself out there in whatever way, reminding people that you exist, then it's just the world that we live in. It's not a personal attack on you, but that is the truth, is that out of sight, out of mind. And as our friend Elaine has said with KEJ, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And that's the idea. I think that I've watched you since 2018 or 19 say yes to speak at events that I had said no to, and say yes to going to different things, or you're at these workshops that you're not really learning. You're just there. You're making that investment away from the family, or, like you're putting in these reps. And you're like, I liken it to you just like swinging at a ball. You're hitting base hits on some of these things, but every now and then, just because you kept swinging the bat, you just knocked one out of the park. And it just seems like you see the value of being in person with the network that you want to reach. And that's something I think a lot of people, especially post-COVID, who have spent their whole life only online with Zoom calls or networking events online and things like that, are missing out just the being in person. Before we, got on air, you were talking about driving to Vegas on Monday and back on Monday so that you could meet with some reps for some brands and just get some FaceTime with them. And it's like, man, I got to step up my game. Like, obviously I'm not within 3 or 4 hours of Vegas to drive to get over to NAB, but the point being is, like, you drove out in 2 days, 3 days in a row to our retreat in Palm Springs, which was, I'm sure, an extra 6 or 8 hours of driving. But you got connected and met, 50 new wedding filmmakers, and you met different guest speakers we had, and just, you made the trip, you invested, you built better relationship with us. Like, you put in that rep. You're engaged so many times a year. You're speaking at these things. And what's interesting to me is that you're not just randomly going to all of the events. You're strategically going to events that you do think, you're not sitting there saying, oh, how can I milk this event? But you're like, this is a good step for our brand. And that's what I've watched from afar with you, is you're very strategic in those things. It's not like you're showing up at, like, barn wedding conference to learn how to be barn.
Yeah, is that a thing?
It
should be a thing. I'm sure,
it
there's
should.
a market for that, but no, it's true. You got to be intentional. You have to be intentional, when you're choosing what events to go to. But in the beginning, for us, when we really started, like, diving into this, we were less intentional because, we were just trying to get out there, and become somebody that people knew, or existed. Now we're a lot more intentional, of course, but yeah, depending on where you're at in your business, it may be one of those things you got to attend all the events, including the barnyard,
Yeah.
Anonymous. No, that's probably not a thing, but anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, BYA. Yeah.
And eventually you kind of find your niche, and you find your crowd, and you kind of, find yourself and your brand, and and you learn what works and what doesn't work. And so, but yeah, you got to be intentional, and think about where you're trying to go. And I think too, there's a lot of, there is a measure of unintentionality with it. Honestly, I enjoy people. I'm a people person. I like connecting with people. And I learned that, you never know what opportunities can arise from just connecting with people. Even somebody that you think is like, oh, well, this person, they're not the top planner, or they're not the top photographer in my market. I still like to connect with those people, because at the very least, I will learn something, or I'll make a new friend or whatever. But oftentimes, you make those connections that you think aren't necessarily going to pan out from a sales perspective, or a business perspective, but they often do in one way or another. That person may be very well connected and introduce you to somebody that's going to bring you business, or they may be really smart when it comes to running their business, and you might learn something that saves you money or time or whatever it is. So I love people, and I love, just kind of from time to time going where the wind takes me,
That's deep. Now, I appreciate that about you, and you're a people person, and you gain energy from being around people. And as I've watched your business really grow in the last 5 years, I feel like one of the things that you've done is that you take advantage of any opportunity that you can, and you see the opportunity more than what's at hand. So, like, if there was a wedding that you felt like would take your brand to the next step, but they didn't have the budget, especially 5-6 years ago, it's like, I'm going to do that because it's going to get me in the room with that wedding planner, or that's going to get me, or, I see you posting when people are like, should I charge this planner $500 for a behind the scenes video? And it's like, so many people are so short-sighted whenever, like, they're burning. And I've done this before. There was a planner in Oklahoma City that did all the big weddings. And like, I I was cocky and it was 7 or 8 years ago, and she's friends with all the billionaires and all the multimillionaires. And like, I was just like, yeah, it's 10 grand or whatever. And she's like, they've got a $7,000 budget. And I was like, I'm not budging. And it's like, I never got it. Like, I worked with her one other time 7 or 8 years later and was just like, I'm so sorry about that. And she's like, it's fine, but it was already done. It was done. And so there's just, I'm not perfect in this. I've learned this, but you are out there, Cherish is out there. You're paying attention. You're being very specific with who and how the things that you're doing now, because we do have limited time. And I think that with How to Film Weddings, we're talking to all kinds of people. Some people want to go into a space that, is a more high profile. Some people want to go into an adventurous space or whatever. But the principle is the same throughout. It's like making relationships, making connections, being good to people. And so I was going to ask you, I might have asked you this on the podcast before, but like the intentional steps that you took to get to where you are, and then the way that you, like in the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like that work has paid off to you. Like, how many swings did you have to take? How many networking events? What kinds of, like, how much really went into that before you felt like this was starting to pay off? When did you get those little bits of momentum? Did it seem like it took forever? What happened with that? Because I know that you've been doing things for a long time.
Yeah, what's funny about that is like sometimes you see like immediate results, and sometimes it takes a long time. It really just depends. If you're right time, right place, you might go to an event and you have that random interaction with somebody that just happens to be looking for what you have to offer. So sometimes you have those moments where it's almost instantaneous. You see the advantage of it. But then there are other relationships that take time, that take years even before you see the fruitage of that effort. I mean, there are still people that I would love to work with that I've met years ago, and it could just take time. There are people that I just worked with this year that I met years ago, 5 years ago. And I made a very similar mistake as you, John, where when I first met that planner, they reached out, hey, could you create some, behind the scenes content for us? And what would you charge? And I, quoted an obscene price, and, still thinking it was a good deal, and then not getting that phone call back and going, oh yeah, okay, maybe was the wrong move, but yeah, sometimes it takes years. And it is a slow game. Sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time, but you can't not start doing this stuff just because you think, oh, it's going to take years and I need something now. Like, whatever it is, whatever you decide to do, you have to just do it, and we've invested, a lot of time, a lot of money in attending events and connecting with people. And, it's been a while since I've actually like crunched the numbers, but, we've easily spent in the last 5 years, 100, maybe even $200,000 attending events, but they're the right events for us to attend. That's bringing us, the business that we currently have. So, it's paying off. But, yeah, again, you have to start, and you have to give back, you have to be willing to give back, and not always looking for what am I going to get out of this relationship. People will see through that type of attitude, and you'll get nothing. So giving back is important. If a planner wants your video or your images, give it to them. Don't be thinking, oh, this is my product, I'm just giving it away for free so that they can use it. Like, I've heard videographers and photographers say that before, and it is so short-sighted. You might, even if a planner says, hey, yeah, I'll pay for those images or that video or that reel or whatever, do not charge them. because the few $100s, maybe even $1,000 that you get from that planner to create that content for them, pales in comparison to the, the repeat business that you could get from them if you give back and do it for free. So you have to look at it that way, look at it as an investment. And, that's all part of the sales funnel, and getting those opportunities. And then, from there, you just got to close it basically.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. You have been very strategic about your sales funnel, who's going to be where, different names of people you want to work with, relationships you want to make, and you found, I'm going to be at these specific events. If I'm going to be teaching at an event, I want to make sure that it fits these things. My question to you now, I would assume that, most people would look at your brand and say, wow, that's kind of where I want to get to. That's the destination. My question for you is kind of, what are you doing today in 2024 to kind of keep in front of those people, to keep in front of that network, to keep building your network? Like, what does that strategy look like today? Because some people at this point, I feel like, would be like, well, we don't have to, like, we've got it figured out. I know you've said there's a lot of people coming up, obviously, always, but what does it practically look like for you all to stay in front of the Marcy Blooms or the Easton events or whoever it is that you're really working with? What does that look like for you all?
That's a good question. Yeah, again, going where they are, getting in the room with them, attending events that they're attending, like Engage, is a big one for us. At this point, even just the collaborations on social media now, are good, because everybody kind of watches everybody. They watch their colleagues. So if we do a wedding with Marcy, for example, making sure that we're in the conversation for, with their social media team, and providing, Marcy with what she needs to help, support her business, or and knowing that other people are watching, and so, yeah, the more I can provide content for them, that's helpful. Again, attending the events that they're going to be attending. And yeah, and again, for us, we don't have to do as much as we used to. But you still have to show up, you still have to show up. It's super important. So
yeah,
I guess that's what I would say about that,
No, I mean, I think that what's interesting about it is it's really not that complicated. It's just staying in front of people. I use the reference, like, Coca-Cola doesn't really need to advertise anymore, but they advertise and they stay in front of people because they know Pepsi sucks and wants their business. And if you drink Pepsi over Coke, I'm sorry, but you get the point. I don't want to cause a fight, but obviously Coke is far superior.
What is it about having a Coke at the wedding reception?
It's just so freaking good.
It's so
man.
good. Can we just talk about that for a minute?
I felt like I was unique in that, honestly. I really did, where I was just like, I'm going to get a Coke and that's been 10 years, and that's the only time I drink Coke is at a reception.
Yes.
And so it's just that reward that you get after all the hard part of the day is over and you can just chill. It's like, I'm getting a Coke. And a lot of times, too, I'm so hungry and haven't eaten that it's like, well, at least I can get a Coke. There's some sugar in there. There's some.
Yes.
But I don't know.
Wild. But yeah,
it is.
I know. Same thing. Like, I feel like it's way more common with us wedding photographers and videographers than we may have thought it was.
Yeah.
But I'm meeting more and more.
It's not
Maybe
unique
we
to
should
us.
start a conference.
Ooh, the Coke conference. I bet a lot of people would show up. What kind of conference is this? Not that kind of conference.
This is not what I thought it
would
was.
It would do really well with all of my California couples. We'll just say that. No, okay. So I have a scenario I wanted to run by you because, so your funnel currently, consists of, for the most part, the vendor side of the network or the vendor side of the business, and that is the more lucrative side, and it is the easier to go long term. You've got your that seems to be a very smart play. I know you don't spend a ton of time on the couple, the bridesmaid. I mean, you're doing what you can with social media to obviously appeal to them and stuff. But if you were to be creating a new business, new funnel, new whatever that wasn't film or photographer, planner centric, and you wanted to like really deeply connect with just the couples, their families, the bridesmaids, that sort of thing, build me a business a network. What would you be doing to network? And again, this could be a nationwide, worldwide business, but it's not so much about the planners, but it's about finding the couples that want to spend the most time with Lindsay and Cherish, and they really want to be connected to their videographer is like the thing they hire before they even hire a planner. What tips would you have to somebody like that? Just randomly asking. It has nothing to do with my brand.
Oh man. You know, you have to speak their language. You have to identify, first of all, who is your ideal client, who is your ideal buyer, and you need to understand that before you could even make any decisions. So like creating a profile. Okay, this is my ideal client, this is her name, this is how old she is, this is where she come from, this is her background, or whatever, assuming if it's the bride or something like that, or whatever. You need to know who your client is, first of all, and then tailor everything else kind of around that speaks to them. So the words that you use, what you post on social media. We probably would post a lot more personal stuff, that we feel our ideal buyer identifies with. So I think that would be a first step, is kind of creating this profile of who am I trying to talk to, and then kind of reverse engineering it back from there is super important. Again, no matter what segment of the industry you're in, it's all very personal. What we do, the wedding industry, regardless of whether, you're doing adventure elopements or, ultra luxe, high net worth individuals or whatever, it is personal, so, I think understanding that and, knowing that the client, your client, whoever they may be, they want to get to know you a little bit, and make sure that you're going to mesh with their vibe, well. And so, that's kind of where I would probably start.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my train of thought.
That happens. When people look at me, sometimes they get lost. They're like, whoa, that guy exists.
I was just so impressed by your question, John. I just couldn't even.
This conversation with John and Lindsay is so good, but before we continue with it, I want to share about howtofilmweddings.com/delivery and talk about our friends MediaZilla. MediaZilla is an exquisite, beautiful delivery system for your wedding films. Most filmmakers, I don't think, are thinking about after the wedding and how they're selling and how their brand and what it's communicating after the fact. MediaZilla is a delivery system that is definitely going to wow your clients and elevate that experience level that you are giving them. So check them out. Learn more information over at howtofilmweddings.com/delivery. Now let's continue the conversation that John is having with Lindsay from Rêve Films.
I think that it's interesting because the people that listen to this podcast, a lot of them are like, I don't want anything to do with that side. And I'm trying to relate it to them of like, if you were doing what they are doing,
yeah,
you would be winning so hard in that sector because you're doing some of these same principles correct. Like creating a profile, knowing who your client is, like you've done that, and your ideal client is this wedding planner or this photographer or this event or this style of wedding. And so like someone like me, I've had to go through and literally create my ideal avatar and know who they are, know where they are. Like
Right.
they're not at an event. They're not, they're online. They're scrolling through YouTube videos, and you have to know how to tag videos correctly or whatever.
Yep.
And then I start getting those kinds of clients. I'm doing high net worth individuals that are not wanting a big thing. They're wanting something that's an intimate 50 people experience, and some of it overlaps the kinds of weddings that you're doing, but it's not like they're hiring, a $1 million wedding planner. They're spending a lot of money. But the idea is that I have had to build that avatar, speak to them, create social media, show myself, do all these things. And then you get to these events and these weddings. So let's say that you had built this. We'll go through this a little bit of the scenario. It's basically just a checkup to make sure if I'm doing things the way that the great Lindsey Conklin would do them. What would you do if you were at one of these events? You fly to Georgia. You're at this wedding with this couple that you were the very first person that they booked. They picked their date around you. They've told their planner you're amazing. So you don't know the planner, you don't know the photographer, but everybody is looking to you as like the most expensive person there. The bride has 10 bridesmaids, and they're all like your ideal buyer. The groom has 10 groomsmen. All the people there are your ideal buyer.
And this is strictly hypothetical.
Random. Yeah, hypothetical.
This is totally random, hypothetical.
To Georgia specifically in like a week and a half. What would your game plan be in those kinds of scenarios to get the most out of an event with your awesome style, how you do what you do?
It's all about making people feel comfortable, and like making your client feel special. Some people are great at this and some people are not, and I respect that. It could be a challenge for some, but some people are they can enter the room and they can just kind of make people feel like they've been friends for years, and so that's kind of what I try to do, or I would try to do it in that situation. And not trying to be like the photographer they hired and more like the friend that happens to do, good photography or videography or whatever it is. And even with the weddings that we do nowadays, like I still, like at the end of it, I still want to, like most of my clients, I want them to feel like I'm one of their friends or their family members, at the end of the day. And make people feel comfortable, being able to read the room is also important. You don't want to be that awkward person that is unable to do that. And that'll cause you to kind of insert yourself into scenarios that you should back out of, gracefully or whatnot. So, and these are things that, sometimes come natural to people, or others it takes experience, or it takes years to kind of learn these little nuances. But yeah, I mean, getting people excited is also part of it too. If you got an awesome clip of somebody doing something, like pulling it up on the camera and showing them, oh, look at you guys, like people love that type of stuff, and that is all endearing. These are all just little things that kind of endear people to you and make them feel comfortable with you and give them confidence. If it's the couple and they're not models, they don't spend a lot of time in front of the camera, like showing them how good they look, that's all part of it too. So it is kind of an art form, but I think you do it well, John. I've seen some of your behind the scenes, and I think you do it well. So I guess the better answer would be just do what you do. And if you're a listener, do what John does and watch his BTS.
Just take the T out. It just watches BS, really.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting that you've said, and from the beginning, it's just making people feel comfortable, making them feel and see that you're being authentic, give them the confidence. These are things that like good salespeople can do. Bad salespeople make you feel icky and like you're cornered and you're in fight or flight mode. And, approaching a wedding that, the way I do approach a wedding is it's like I am the big brother that's there to help them, but also like I'm going to make sure that they have the best day. I'm going to be their friend. I'm going to, and the whole filming of the event to me is important, but not nearly as important as the experience that I'm helping them have. And that's just my funnel. That's who I want to work with. And there's all kinds of people out there. And for me, I don't want a huge production. I don't want a huge footprint. I don't want to insert myself into a room in a way that makes people feel like it's about me. But there are all kinds of different couples that might want that. And I think that the same principles in this whole Secret to Sales series that we have been doing is like that you want people to see that you're approachable, that you're authentic, that you make them comfortable. You're not trying to sell them something that they don't want. And you're finding out who it is you want to work with and then figuring out that strategy, how to get in the room, get in front of those people. And it doesn't just randomly happen. You don't just wake up and, Cherish, what do you want to do today? Do we want to go to an event? And it's like, no, you've got your plan to get to the Super Bowl and win. And the people that don't do that and that don't do the reps and that don't take the time are the ones that usually are sitting on the sideline yelling at the refs.
No, it's so true. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, we do work with a lot of planners, and they're kind of like our remote salespeople, right? Because they're the ones that are selling us, to their clients. But oftentimes on the day of the event, on the day of the wedding, obviously they have their teams that are doing a lot of the grunt work, the behind the scenes, making sure things are getting done. Of course, the planner has the final say, and they are the ones that when there's a problem, they step in and take care of it. But I've observed a lot of the planners that we work with at these events, many times they're working the room, at these events because that's how they're going to get their next gig, right? Oftentimes, these are legacy clients for them. And so they are making sure that it's their job to make the family feel comfortable. It's their job to even entertain this family's friends who could potentially become their clients, So I see them like working the room, and that's what these top planners, are really good at, So I guess if you are, the one that's you're the videographer or the photographer, whatever, that's getting your leads directly, like while you're kind of filming their wedding, you kind of have at the same time have to be working the room, and potentially, interacting with, future clients that are going to want to hire you too. So, it's super important that you do that. And again, you never know where certain interactions or connections that you make will lead you. So
I love all of that. I love how you are always putting in those reps to get new people to know that you exist without it being beating them over the head with the fact that you exist. And that, the approach of I'm going to kind of lay back and just be a good, cool person to be around. I very much relate with appreciating that about you and how you can just feel it when somebody is kind of encroaching on your space or wants something from you, and you're drawn away from that. But the people, if you were in dating right now and didn't have a wife, it'd be so easy for you just to, the girls that the guys jumping all in front of, it's like, that's not who they want. The guy that's laid back, cool, chill, like that in your business. I mean, if you're not thinking through some of those things, you're going to turn people off. You're going to make them uncomfortable. And for me, I've watched that secret to sales from you is the idea that you are playing that long game. You are not trying to sell to people. You're trying to make people feel comfortable, and then the selling does it does its work for itself. That has been huge.
Totally. No, it's so true. If somebody doesn't, this is just my take, my perspective. If somebody does not want Le Rêve, they don't want our product, I don't want to force them to want our product, and so like that's super important to me. Um, yeah. And even like when I had a sales job, back in the day, it was very similar. Like we just wanted to have good products. We had a good brand. We wanted to take care of our clients. And but at the end of the day, it was about what was best for them. Sometimes Le Rêve may not be what's best for a particular client. And I'm okay with that. I want the people that want me just as much as we want them. So, yeah, I think that's my approach, and having a good product, taking care of people, being a good person, and everything just kind of like falls into place. Obviously understanding your numbers is important too, and pricing, and that's a whole other side of it, and that's of course a hot topic nowadays, and that is part of it, being being aware of what your pricing is, and knowing if you're providing value. You can't just raise your prices just to raise your prices if your current lead source is not able to sustain that. But also, being able to charge appropriately based on the quality of your work as well. So there's all a balance, that plays a part. But at the end of the day, I want people to get what's best for them. And if it's us, great. If it's not, then that's okay too,
Such a long game perspective and such a selfless instead of selfish perspective, which again is so endearing to people and why you're continually having success. And so, thanks for taking an hour to be on today. We've got to wrap up. I want you to be able to get back to your life. I know you have a couple things. Number one, the most important thing, you've got an Instagram subscription service that is worth its weight in gold. I'm one of the founding members of this. Why don't you talk for a second about your IG subscription, if you will, and where people can connect with you?
Yeah, what's funny is, so our Instagram subscription, we have a paid, subscription on Instagram. It's $4.99 a month. I love it because, there's a lot of things that I wish we could post on our social media or Instagram that just is not really in line with our brand. So for starters, I feel a lot more comfortable posting silly things there, but also, we post a lot of behind the scenes from the weddings that we're allowed to share. If it's not like an NDA or something like that, we'll post behind the scenes on how we approach certain things, which people really enjoy. And also, I've got tutorials on, for our Instagram subscribers. And then kind of one of the biggest things that I think keeps people coming back is we post a lot of referrals, job referrals there. So I think to date, we've had close to $50,000 in bookings that our Instagram subscribers have booked from referrals that we've sent them. Some have been over 10K weddings, which is nice. But yeah, so we'll post referrals in there for our subscribers. We post tutorials behind the scenes and silly other things that I can't or wouldn't post on my normal business Instagram. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. That's the common feedback we get is,
And
people
it's
say
$499 a month, which is a steal.
No, $4. It's $4.99.
Oh my goodness. Everybody run, don't walk to Instagram. So cheap.
Honestly, and I've had people tell me like, why aren't you charging more for this? Like, we're getting so much value out of it. And the reason that I don't raise the price is because I don't want to have like feel the pressure to be like posting something every day. It's a good balance, like I feel like people are getting their money's worth. And if I don't post, something for our subscribers today, I don't feel guilty. So it's just kind of a fun thing for me. It's not something we do to get wealthy or anything, but yeah, we have a decent amount. We have like over 80 subscribers right now. It's nice. It's good. And everyone's, engaged. I like it. And honestly, our subscribers, if they ever have a question or anything, they can ask us that and we'll respond right away. They get priority when it comes to that type of stuff. So we're happy to help out anytime they're in a scenario where they need our advice. We're willing to weigh in, but.
And as it sits, we're recording this April of 2024. If you're listening to this in the future with inflation, if it's $14.99 when you pop over there, you're too late. Okay, I'm just being honest.
That's right.
No, it's great value. You're great value, but your brand is not the Walmart great value brand. I'll tell you that. It's way better than that.
Correct.
I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you for not comparing us to Walmart.
Yes. Hey, it's getting better. Walmart's getting better. I'm just being honest. But
no, of course.
Yeah, but I won't compare you to that. So thank you so much, seriously, for your time. I know it's important. I know you got a lot to do, a lot of woodworking that you're doing. Don't chop off a finger. Seriously, I appreciate your friendship. If ever you need anything from us, you know where to find us. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, before we end today's episode, I want to let you know that John and Lindsay continue this conversation after they stopped recording, and it was really, really good info. And so I'm including that. So hang on for another 3 or 4 minutes because this is some really, really good stuff. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't have like formal sales training. I didn't realize it was a natural thing that just came to me, but like that side of stuff has been always just really easy to be like, well, that's why you're messing up, you fool. Like, don't.
Right.
It's crazy to me how many in our industry, I mean, it's got to be something to do with camera geeks and stuff like that just are completely unaware. Like, I feel like your shooting and editing caught up to your sales in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
and
totally.
Mine too.
No,
I learned how to shoot because I'm good at selling, not the opposite.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if we're still rolling on this, you can insert it in somehow. But yeah, for us, like we were better at relationships, and our brand and our work had to catch up, in a lot of ways. We were getting certain opportunities, getting the inquiries, the leads, and then we'd lose it to somebody else that had a better brand, or maybe they had done bigger, better weddings, and we didn't have anything to show for that. So so we definitely had to make sure our work caught up and our brand caught up, and we did a whole like brand redesign, because we're getting opportunities and felt like, okay, we need to look the part, now. And it's funny because like, as I've gone on record before, and I know you've said it before, I've said it before, that networking and relationships in a lot of ways trumps the quality of the product. And there is truth to that, but I never want anyone to think that I'm not concerned about providing a good quality product. I want to get better as a filmmaker and a wedding videographer. I want every video that we do be better than the last one too, and that's just another aspect of it.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people think they can't charge more or their work has to be as good as Rêve to be able to charge more than what they're currently charging, and that's the thing for me is just like, I know my work is really good. I know that your work is better, and I'm okay with that. Like, I know that there are people
that's not necessarily true, but thank you.
Well, I know that like your color grading is better. It's something I aspire to be better at doing, or like getting in there and like really dig. But also like, I just see people be like, well, I don't know. I'm an imposter because I'm charging more or whatever. And the thing about the technical side of it, I think is like everybody can technically get better. it's like technically there's a lot of better singers than Taylor Swift and songwriters or whatever. She's just so much better at building her brand that her music is actually caught up to the brand that she, the early days, all the things she was doing with fans and like the way she built that brand. That's why I'm such a fan of Taylor Swift, is because she's so freaking smart with her business. I was like, she's going to be a billionaire. And people are like, yeah, whatever. She's just this teeny bopper. And it's like, no, she's smarter. Yeah. She's getting better at the technical thing. But the thing that's the majority of it is, what is the brand of Taylor Swift? How does people connect with it? How does she connect with her fans? How does she make people feel? And that's what, that's to me seems very similar in our business.
Totally. So true. And stop making your wedding videos for other wedding filmmakers.
I don't have enough time for this. No, it's very true. Like I like when people tag me saying John Bunn is my favorite filmmaker, but I like it way better when the bride reaches out and says, you're the exact film. Like, I haven't found anybody that makes films like you. Like, my films are not flashy and not going to make other wedding filmmakers real pumped. And that's fine. And that's a huge point of advice. Well, once again, Lindsay, thank you so much for taking the time. Great wisdom today in the episode. Do yourself a favor, listeners. Go over to Lindsay's Instagram page and subscribe today. $4.99. Great value. Maybe you'll just pick up one of those referrals as well. Lindsay, you're the man. I really appreciate your mindset. And before I hop off here today, I want to remind you again of our course, the How to Film Weddings course, open for enrollment until midnight tomorrow. So if you're watching or listening to this the day that the episode drops, our course is available until midnight tomorrow. howtofilmweddings.com/the course. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you.